But am I like... I don't seem laggy.
No, you seem fine.
Because Charlie's very silent. I can't tell if it's like he's delayed or not.
No,
you getting this 1-to-1?
Yeah, it seems good.
You getting this 1-to-1? Is this like... Yeah, okay, cool.
Yeah.
All right, okay,
That's going at the start of the pod.
Hello and welcome back to the Full Fat Podcast. There was a much bubblier opening that we actually just shot, but then the whole podcast lagged to shit and I'm now pissed off. I'm actually turning into Peacemaker. I'm of course Matt Whittle, but for the sake of this terrible banter, I'm actually Peacemaker. And we've got King Shark over here and we've also got Mr. Rick Flag. How are you guys doing?
Hand.
Very good, that is your hand.
Yes.
And Rick Flag is a silent protagonist in a video game.
Yep, no, exactly. I've just got guns. That's all I have to say. Guns.
We should do all of your podcasting as if you're a silent protagonist in a video game. So, like, I'll say something to you, and then you're silent, and then I finish the next part of the conversation as if you've answered, like from a dialogue tree.
Sure.
Yeah, I think that'll work out really well. It won't be confusing at all.
Gotcha.
Definitely.
So
for the audio
we obviously
listeners.
saw that. Yeah. The audio listeners are already so lost because they're like, "What are you talking about, Peacemaker, Rick Flag, and King Shark?" Well, you've got to go over to YouTube.com/The Full Fat Podcast to find out. Spoilers: I'm wearing a tinfoil hat. Just before we get to reviewing the Suicide Squad, and full spoilers by the way, I just wanted to talk about a bit of news that I think by the time we came to record this podcast had kind of been swept under the rug, but. Let me tell you, ladies and gents, the day it happened, I turned to my Alexa and I said, play Celebration by Kool and the Gang, because Chibnall is finally out. Good Doctor Who is something that might be possible again, and I, for one, I cherish Good Doctor Who with all of my heart. I don't care how many men, women and children I have to kill to get it.
Now that I think of it, your helmet does look like a bit like a Cyberman.
It does a little bit, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I think it's pretty good, though.
Pretty
accurate.
Would you eat a beach full of dicks for Good Doctor Who?
You're being facetious, but if there were a load of dicks on the beach, I would eat them. I would say no problemo for Good Doctor Who.
The beach was completely covered in dicks, and somebody said I'd eat every dick until the beach was clean for liberty. I would say no problemo.
I think that Good Doctor Who's just an excuse. I think you just want to eat a big bag of dicks.
Exactly.
I get the impression that the audience knows we liked the movie because we're already getting into quoting it.
It's true.
But on that note, as a quick recap, obviously there was a film called Suicide Squad, don't know if you heard about it, in 2016, that starred Jared Leto. He was a terrible Joker, and the rest of the movie was pretty bad. Whether or not that was David Ayer's fault or the butchered theatrical cut's fault is obviously up for debate, but I also think with 6 weeks to finish the script, the man was fighting an uphill battle. And this is the guy that gave us like Training Day, End of Watch, like good movies. So I feel sorry for the guy, and I hope the next thing he does is fucking A, because I fully support David Ayer as a filmmaker. In terms of this film compared to the last one, I think it is a definite step in the right direction. This feels
100%.
like the Suicide Squad movie we should have gotten the first time round. For those of you that don't know the premise, it sees a whole bunch of supervillains get injected with a bomb into their neck, and they are sent to the island of Corto Maltese to attain something of extraterrestrial origin in order to save the world, and more importantly, save Americans. Rick Flag, being the goody two-shoes of the team and the de facto leader when Viola Davis is taken out of the second act under mysterious plot circumstances, what would you say you thought of the film?
I had a really good time watching the film. Not happy with America, but I had a very good time watching the film.
And more accurately, what did Terry think of it?
Terry had a really good time, actually. However, I have to say this. We had to watch it in 4DX, and that is not how God intended film to be watched. It's like somebody was like, do you know what I like? Roller coasters. Do you know what I also like? Films. Let's put them together. No. There was no need. I hate it. Matt tried to turn the water on sneakily on me, and I wasn't impressed.
Yeah,
So
I turned
just,
and kissed her, and then hit the button, and then I went back, and then immediately she just looked to see if the water was on.
I'm too quick for you, Whittle.
I've got
but
to try
yes.
though.
The
mischievous
40X
payoff is too
just-
good.
Yeah, I'd have been fuming if I'd have got hit in the face with some water.
Especially
did
with the
not want
first
to see
scene, they're
it.
like dropping into water, and it's just like the jets from the front, are just like spraying you. Horrible. And Nuawe, what did you think?
Read movie good. Read movie good.
Who was your favourite character?
Me like man with dots all over him. Funny.
Polka Dot Man. You like Polka Dot Man? Oh, very
Yeah.
good, very
Yeah.
good. And did you like Bloodsport?
Fucking A, I'd like Bloodsport. I was not expecting to. I just want to preface by saying that I think Idris Elba is a fantastic actor, and I think I mean, you know, Matt, The Wire is my favourite show of all time. Very cliche of me, but it is just that good. And I personally, I love Idris Elba in that show. I think he's amazing, and I feel like he's been in loads of good stuff, but I feel like he's really not really had his time to sort of really show his chops since then. And I know this is like a kind of silly action movie, superhero film, but I think I really got like the most charismatic Idris Elba I've had in a long time. And for me, I had an absolute blast. I thought Bloodsport was great. I think he makes Deadshot look like a little bitch, and I think that it now it's between Deathstroke and Bloodsport of the cooler assassin type shooting guys. Because that outfit is sweet as, man. That Xenomorph
that was
outfit.
cool.
What is that?
It is super sweet. I agree with you. Like, I was really disappointed that Will Smith wasn't returning because I'm still a fan of the Big Willie,
Big Willie,
and
yeah.
he was one of the best things in the first movie. But now, and I was also sad because I thought, well, why not just recast Deadshot? It seems weird to like bring in a new character. However, now that we've gotten a completely separate character and he's like a Superman villain who put him in the ICU, and in the comics he's actually classed as a Superman villain, even though he's like a regular mercenary. That in of itself is awesome.
Yeah.
But then he has this like nanotech Inspector Gadget suit where he's like, and he's
that
like
was really cool.
pulling out
So
all kinds of
sweet.
different guns. Like, it was so sweet, and I loved that it wasn't just guns. It was like he has like a bolus. Is it a bolus? And like a sword and like flamethrowers
Flamethrower,
and all that sort of
yeah,
stuff.
That was cool. The only
It was seriously sweet.
The only issue that I found with Bloodsport is that like I could like the nice guy payoff was so obvious, and like I didn't think he was nasty enough for me to care about his nice guy payoff, if that makes sense. Like he kept being like, I'm a bad guy, but then he wasn't really that bad a guy. It was quite pleasant. I'd have had a conversation with him.
I think that's kind
Really,
of a problem
I could
with the
agree
movie.
with you on. Yes, I could agree with you with a couple of the other characters, like Ratcatcher 2. She's not really like in any way, shape, or
at
form
all.
evil. But Bloodsport, actually, I disagree with you there because I think they did a really good job of showing what he is. Oh, excuse me, we have to bleep that out because YouTube they've actually notified that in the
Really?
the
Oh,
ad
no.
suitability.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay,
yeah, yeah,
cool.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, so I'm glad I cut it out for my Suicide Squad video. Check that out on YouTube. But like, I thought they did a really good job with that first scene with his daughter of establishing how toxic he was, and also it put the movie in really good hands from the first movie because I hated all that schmaltzy greetings card bullshit with Deadshot and his daughter of like, oh, you know, I want to take care of you. I'm not really a bad guy because I love my daughter. It's like, yeah, the Spider-Man 3 effect. But this, he's actually like a dick. He's horrible to her, and the way he's talking about her mum as well, and she's dead. It's like he is not a nice guy. So I actually feel like that. I feel like his arc was actually quite good for him becoming like a
Yeah.
team leader.
Yeah, I thought that scene did well, but I think in his interaction with everybody else, he wasn't exactly nasty. He was just like how we'd all be if we were with like buddy King Shark. We'd all be like, for fuck's sake.
Yeah.
Like, do you know what I mean? So, yeah.
I loved that scene where he was watching and he saw like Ratcatcher was about to get eaten, and the way he just like pulls out his gun and then he like makes it into a rifle and he's just powering away at King Shark. That was so sick. Like the fact that he can take on someone like King Shark, I think proves like the scope of his abilities. Like you could do so much with this character. Like in the sequel, You can just pull out new weapons. Like I'm sorry. Give him a jetpack. Where's his jetpack?
I think we're going to
My
talk more
man
about
deserves a
jetpacks today.
jetpack. I think so.
I think we are. I found that bit quite terrifying because, like, when King Shark gets up after being shot down to the floor, he looks fucking ferocious. I was like, I don't want to be near him. Like, he's also kind of like indestructible as well. I think he was, as much as he
Yeah.
was like very silly and dumb. Like, I was also quite petrified by him. I think he was quite terrifying. I think they did a really good job of that. I thought Bloodsport was great. I want to add to what you said about I think the opening scene was brilliant. I think it was a really good way of introducing his character and his daughter, and like you said, Matt, so much better than the way it was done in the original one with Deadshot. And yeah, I think he was like a proper dickhead, like to a really nasty piece of work. I think to clarify my comment earlier when I said about, I think if I was to pick a problem with the movie, I feel like I could have done with them being nastier than what they were. That being said, I still had a blast. I still enjoyed the movie, but like, if I had to pick something, I think I would like them to be a bit nastier as people and a bit creepier, and because like all of them kind of, to an extent, you could kind of find a way that you could find an angle in your head that they don't even need to be in there. Like Polka Dot Man, that he's kind of been put there because of his mum testing on him, and do you know what I mean? I was like, they've all got an angle you can feel for, and I get you got to get the audience to root for these guys, but I still think you can do that and have them be nasty at the same time. But that being said, I had an absolute blast.
I think it's about finding a balance.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, definitely.
I think it's just because, like, all of the main team that you follow that are likely to survive are the ones that are actually inherently kind of good. And I like the idea that it's kind of like the characters we're following are just, they're victims of the prison system more than anything else. And they're actually, like, do you know what I mean? Like, they were given a tough break in life, and like particularly like someone like Ratcatcher, like, she's never had the opportunities to really be above the law anyway. And I like that it's making that point by giving us those characters, but I think also, as you say, Charlie, I think there could have been a bit more of a balance with, like, for example, like Peter Capaldi. The way he's characterised as this, like, pervert is really unsettling. And when he gets killed, you're like, fucking A, because he deserved it because he was a piece of shit. But I could have done with more of that kind of thing on the team, like more actual reprehensible douchebags, because what you want to do is you want to give a reason for you to hate all these characters, and then you just watch them get torn to shreds.
100%, I agree. And I could have done with more of the teammates killing off each other because of just being pissed off with each other. Like, I think I said to you, Matt, I would like if, like, for example, like Captain Boomerang was mouthing off so much that Peacemaker just grabs him and smashes his head into the wall, kills him, and then and then everyone's like, why did you do that? And he's like, well, he was disrupting the peace of the team, we can't have that, like stuff like that. I would have liked to have seen a bit more of that sort of stuff throughout the movie, but again, I'm nitpicking here because what we got I really, really enjoyed, and I had an absolute blast. I think it was also a really good move to sort of kill off a lot of those characters at the start at the same time, to sort of be like, this is not going to be the same movie you had before.
Let's talk about that a little bit. Like, Terry, what was going through your head when Pete Davidson first of all got like a face surprise?
Do you know what? I actually was just like, yes, because like it was just like the filth I needed to get me into the movie. Like, I didn't like any of those characters particularly. So, like, you knew Rick Flag and Harley Quinn would make it through. It's all good. So, yeah, I actually really enjoyed that they were just like, bam, 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 bam.
I have a question.
There is some revelry, isn't there, in seeing that?
Definitely.
Sorry?
I said I have a question, Terry. You're someone that doesn't like violence in movies, and I'm very intrigued to see because by what you just said there, you quite enjoyed the violence.
It's not that I don't like violence. I enjoy violence. It's when it's just like unnecessarily horrific, and like there was nothing particularly like horrific in this. You know what I mean? Like, obviously horrific things happen to people, but there was nothing that made me go, ooh. Do you know what I mean?
It's more about the tone and the point of it in terms of the movie for you.
No, absolutely. It's not. I'm not against violence in movies, and I think that these movies are. Can you imagine if there was no violence and they were just like, yeah, we're bad guys? You know what I mean?
Well,
It would
also,
make no sense.
I think the violence in this movie, even though some of it you could argue is gratuitous, I would say actually like none of it is gratuitous because it's riffing on the superhero genre.
Yeah,
like it's a genre that's so synonymous with PG-13 that you can't just have like blood and gore for your R-rated big budget comic movie.
No,
You need to
100%.
go. You know, what I mean, you need to see limbs getting blown off. You need to see people getting face hugged.
Yeah.
Which is
But, like,
actually
no-
it's actually probably a yeah.
Yeah.
What were you gonna say,
like,
Terry?
I didn't think any of it was like horrific beyond what it should have been, if that makes sense. None of it was like that's too much, or do you know what I mean?
Because even I'd say like the goriest part of the movie, which is when Peter Capaldi's the Thinker shows Rick Flag and Ratcatcher his experiments. They're all gross, and they're really like they show it in close-ups and stuff. Like the guy with the fish, the starfish, like kind of halfway pulled away from his face with the imprint, and like the other person like with no bottom half and all that sort of stuff. But it's got the intended effect you want, isn't it? Like
Yeah.
you're supposed to feel sick, and you're supposed to feel like, oh, this is the point in the movie where we learn that, you know, predictably, America aren't going in with a shining conscience, and actually this is part of their mess that they're covering up. One thing I did think was really good about that scene is, I don't know about you guys when you were watching it, but when you see that it's American astronauts in the video at the start, I didn't, even though I was like, there's going to be something to do with Viola Davis, like it's not going to be what it seems with Americans, like, you know, they just got to go in and save America. There's going to be more to it than that. But I wasn't expecting the Americans to be the ones that set up the experiments, because even though like you see them capture the fish, I think it's because it does quite a good way of like making you think, oh, it must have like changed hands or whatever, or like it obviously came to Earth and they've acquired it or whatever. Like you don't necessarily connect the dots until that point with the Peter Capaldi scene, and then you're like, oh no, of course, what are you talking about? Of course, it was American astronauts. Yeah, obviously.
Yeah.
It's very true.
The-
You don't think about it after. You kind of forget it happened.
No.
It's really quite
They did-
cleverly done.
They did like a really good job with all of that, and a really good job with all the office stuff. Like I felt that there was like so much tension. Like normally that's the stuff you're like, oh come on,
Yeah.
get us back to the action, get us back to the action. But like I had a great time. Like the interpersonal relationships and the, you know, the way they interacted with each other and the taking of bets, and like this is their day to day, but the
Yeah.
stakes are so high. Like I just thought it was really great, really fantastic.
James Gunn is really good at making characters out of people that are on screen for like a minute. Like he'll just give you like one line. He'll just give you one little bit of humanity or something that would just really like ground that character or make them something. Like, you know, like near the end line of the movie when the starfish thing like dies and it says I was happy like floating within the stars. Like that to me is like what James Gunn's so good at, because like you don't have to do that. I mean, the movie would have still gone on and it would have been great itself at that point, but like it just adds a little bit more depth to that character. And now all of a sudden we're like, oh man, like there's that kind of, you're kind of sad for it in a weird way, and
Yeah.
I think that's
No,
the
Yeah.
magic
so
of him.
good.
Yeah.
Because it's not... If you think about it from the creature's perspective, it was floating happy amongst the stars. It wasn't necessarily evil or out to murder or conquer, but then it was captured. It's been a prisoner of war for the last 30 years. Like, if you got out, the first thing you're fucking doing is
Yeah.
enslaving everyone, aren't you?
Yeah.
If you've
Yeah,
been
yeah.
tortured for that long. And also, like, it's an interesting question of how much does it understand Earth politics. Like the Thinker and the people and the Quarter Maltese government have kept it locked under there for so many years. Like, why would it suddenly think when it comes out, oh, all these people are innocent? They've got nothing
Yeah.
to do with it. You wouldn't
Exactly.
necessarily think that, would you? If you woke up on an alien planet and you were a captive, you'd probably start blasting the place up.
Yeah, it's
No,
true.
it's true.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right. And the
I
way...
did feel sorry for him when all the rats were eating him apart.
Yeah. No,
It's nasty
it
when
was...
they're getting right in the veins.
And it was kind of cute in a way and goofy. It wasn't really too scary. Which
I wouldn't go as far as to
liked.
say cute.
Oh, I thought
I thought
he
it was quite
cute.
repulsive.
Oh, I liked him.
No, I wouldn't want to go anywhere near it. And the fact that you'd be near it and it would just like shoot out these little suckers and it would like attach to your face, horrible.
Sorry, Matt. When you said
I think
that a
I'd
minute
make
ago,
friends with it.
when you said a minute ago, I don't think it's cute. I think it's quite repulsive. Because you've got the mask on and that. I just imagine John Cena saying it. Like, I don't think it's cute. I think it's quite repulsive.
I could see like Ratcatcher being the one like next to him, like, oh, he looks cute.
Yeah.
Can I just say that I totally relate to Ratcatcher napping all the time? Like, that would absolutely be me. Every opportunity.
You're that meme of all the white male protagonists, and then like the neckbeard guy going, "Oh my god, he's literally me." But like the millennial edition.
Millennial edition. That really great millennial joke, eh?
Yeah, that was the joke every single screening from, in my experience, didn't get a laugh. The things that always got a good laugh for me was when Polka Dot Man goes, I hope we're going to die, and Idris Elba goes, for fuck's sake.
We're all gonna die.
I hope so.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
Yeah,
That always got a really good laugh.
So good.
But I think it's because, you know, we've seen it in Britain, and I think it's a very British thing to say, isn't it? You don't see it in movies very often.
Perfectly
But
timed.
I feel like
he
I'm
said.
saying for fuck's sake at least twice a day.
Oh, 100%. 100%. That's very true.
Was there anyone that you were you thought they were going to be the MVP and they kind of disappointed you? Or not disappointed you, but you thought you were going to get more from them. For me, everyone's freaking out about Polka Dot Man, but I don't really feel like we got much more than what we were kind of expecting. Like, you were kind of expecting him to be like the lovable, weird one that's got a heart of gold that, you know what I mean, like ends up sacrificing himself. Like, I don't feel like there was too much more to that character, although I loved the mum gag. I thought it was fantastic.
Oh, brilliant. I would disagree there. I really like Polka Dot Man, and I think he had just the right amount of stuff to do. I think, like, once you've seen him shoot, you know, his polka dots out, you kind of seen it, so I don't mind that he doesn't do that too often. I just loved the whole mum angle they took. I thought that was really original and hilarious. And the fact that we actually see it through his perspective, like all these characters like dressed up as his mum and that, and I thought that was a gag that I couldn't get sick of. Like, and I'm so glad they did it like 3 times throughout the movie. And every time it still made me laugh or made me feel weird. I just thought that was a really good way to get in his mind.
It was fantastic, but I think on your point about, like, once you've seen him do the polka dots, you've seen it. I think that was one of the things that kind of bothered me, is that, like, I thought he had quite an interesting, diverse power set, but he just
Really?
kind of, like... Well, I thought he would. Because it's
Oh, I
like,
see,
what can you
yeah.
do with all these, like, this interdimensional virus and all this sort of stuff? But he's not as versatile as someone like Bloodsport, who's got no powers. Do you know what I mean? I just feel like that it's kind of a common thing in superhero movies from the last couple of years. Like, you look at something like Civil War... Like, they don't know what to do with Scarlet Witch and Vision, whereas, like, the characters with no powers, they're the ones that get in all the meaty action. And, like, again, with this one, I suspect with this, it's more a symptom of, it's an R-rated superhero movie with all the bells and whistles, so they've probably zeroed in on the characters with no powers, so you get your action for less budget.
Yeah.
Like, you can't have the ending of Avengers with an R rating. Do you know what I mean? But, like, I still think it's just strange sometimes. It's like, Polka Dot Man... Surely he's one of the strongest members on your team.
See, I think he does exactly what he says on the tin. Like, he's what I expected from Polka Dot Man. His ending was exactly what I saw coming from watching the trailer. Like, it was obvious from day dot what he was going to be. And as Mr. Charlie Lilly says, I think every other week, it delivered on the promise of the premise.
I think I liked him. I liked him. It's just like... It's one of those movies where you go into it not knowing who you're going to come out of it loving. And, like, when I think about who I really loved, it was, like, the people that I wasn't... Maybe it's to do with expectations as well, to be fair. But also, like, King Shark and Bloodsport, I really didn't think I was going to give a shit.
Yep.
And they're, like, 2 of my favourites.
I loved King Shark. I was sold from the minute he was like, hand. But I don't know what it is, because I hated Wrecker in The Bad Batch. But I love King Shark, but they're the same character. Maybe it's, like, to do with the setting. I don't know.
I think it's the cuteness as well.
He is cute. And then when he's like,
he is
new
cute.
dumb friends.
Oh, I love the fake out death with him, because it feels so fitting that his end would be these, like, new friends he's found. It's very ironic. And, like, also, he's one of the characters that's one of the strongest on the team, so it makes sense to kill him off to raise the stakes. So when he finally dropped from the top of that tower and that single tear came out of his eye, I was like, oh, I really believed he was dead.
Yes.
I was so happy when it turned out he wasn't.
I just loved that...
I thought he was dead.
I thought it was great. I just loved that, you know, at the start, he was trying to eat his friends, and then at the end, he nearly got eaten by his friends, his other friends that he made with
Yeah.
his fishes, and it was quite a nice little arc they did like with that. I thought it was quite.
Because like he's trusting of them in the same way Ratcatcher's like, he wouldn't do that. Look
Yeah,
at his
exactly.
kind eyes.
Yeah.
I love the way like the rat just communicates to her with her and she's like, you bastard.
So good. She was great. I really enjoyed her.
She was
really good.
fantastic.
Ratcatcher was fantastic.
Also, she's got one of those like Aquaman, Ant-Man types of powers where it's like, insert, she can control every kind of that animal. But I actually think rats might be the low-key MVP power because any setting, anywhere, you can spring a load of rats out of nowhere.
Yeah.
It's fantastic.
I love when filmmakers do that, when they take a power that you would think, oh, that's rubbish, and then you're like, oh, hold on a minute, I didn't think about it in that context. You know what I mean? I didn't think you could do that. That's a good point, sort of thing.
I'm still waiting for the Squirrel Girl movie.
That was in development at one point. I don't know what happened
Yeah,
to
it was. Yeah,
It's probably on the pile with the Gambit movie.
yeah.
Aw.
I wanted to ask you guys about a particular bit with Ratcatcher, because it kind of confused me, and even more on a rewatch, is when they're talking to Peter Capaldi on the roof, and he's like, there's way too many cameras in Jotunheim, you won't be able to get in. She's like, the cameras are getting taken care of, right?
Yeah.
And then we cut to the rats eating the wires, and one of the screens goes off on the cameras, right? And the guard sees it, right? The implication being that there's going to be no cameras by the time they turn up, right? But then when it cuts back, when they're in the tower, it cuts back to the same guards, and the only screen that's turned off is the same one, and all the other cameras are working, and she's like, oh, there they are, go send some guards down there. And I was kind of like, but I thought we established that...
She got
Do
rid
you see what I'm
of
saying? Like that,
Yeah.
that confused me, because it's like, oh, was she just nibbling at the main gate camera? Is that what she meant? It kind of implied that she was going to nibble all the cameras.
all of them. Yeah.
Maybe,
And why would you not?
Maybe she's just incompetent.
Maybe.
The building did blow up earlier than expected. Don't forget.
I think all of them are a little.
That's
bit
actually
incompetent.
another nitpick I have. Is I didn't really enjoy the whole 8 minutes earlier thing.
No,
Yeah.
and I hated all the times the signs, the letters came up. There was only one that I thought was actually quite good, but like the rest were just so bad, like on the beach and stuff. But the one where all the metal like lined up, like the Channel 4 adverts, that was cool.
That's interesting, because I completely agree with you, and I really liked that metal one, and I thought that one was clever, and I didn't really care for a lot of the other ones. But Charlie, you said you really liked it, didn't you?
Yeah, I really
liked that
enjoyed
stuff.
it because it reminded me of like comic panels where like sometimes the character, like particularly the one when it come out of the mud, because I was like, oh, I've definitely seen a comic panel where that's happened before, where it's like it said like chapter 1 or whatever, and I quite liked that, and I feel like to me it kind of fit the kind of goofy tone it had going on, the kind of comic booky kind of tone. So I quite enjoyed that. And I liked the kind of inventive ways they would sort of pop up. Yeah, I thought it was fine. I didn't. Yeah, I thought it was quite cool.
I think I agree with Terry though. Like the Jotunheim one is clever because it's like it's aligned, like as you say, like that channel, those old Channel 4 adverts. But like a lot of them, I just thought like when the fire was behind them,
Yeah.
and it just went to like Operation Harley. I'm like, well, like it just doesn't. I like it when it's like an angle on like a building or something to create the lettering, but some of it I just thought was a bit lazy, like just overly stylized,
Yeah.
like on the beach where it's like now and stuff like that. It's like I get that. Like, do you know what I mean? Like I get we've cut back, and also like
That's where it's kind of
I get
fun.
it's comic booky, but this is massively personal taste here
Yeah,
because
yeah.
like I wouldn't say it
Yeah.
detracts from the movie. I wouldn't mark it down because it's my personal taste.
yeah, I see.
But just for me, I'm like I get it makes it look comic booky, but it's an adaptation. Like so I don't need it to do those things. Like I want it to
Yeah.
be, if anything, more like a film.
It felt a
and
bit
constructed in that way.
Sheriff Snydery to me.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
I really liked
Yeah.
the one when my favourite one was actually the opening one when Warner Brothers Pictures came up after his head got all the blood come out of the wall, because I was like, oh, that's really cool. I wasn't
yeah.
expecting
No,
that.
that one was good. But
But
then
again,
it was
I think
just
that one
overkill
works. Because it's
after.
like the blood's kind of like you can believe it's like forming into the letters.
I see.
It's like the fire one. I mean, I know this is all so nitpicky, but it's just like it's like the
I
fire.
get
It's
you,
like
I do
it
get
turns into smoke that says Harley. Like it's just like okay.
I get you.
Yeah, I didn't really care for it too much. Oh, Charlie, you're back with us. I guess King Sharks popped out
Oh.
for a slash.
Oh yeah. He must
How you
have
doing?
left. Yeah, I'm right, man.
You must have just missed him.
Yeah, well, he kind of just said, like, I'm doing the podcast today, leave, and obviously I'm not going to really, like, say no to
Yeah, fair.
a shark.
You're gonna mess with that guy.
With pants
Yeah,
on.
yeah.
Yeah.
We're kind of friends at our peril.
Exactly.
He said, "Do you want to be friends?" And I said, "I don't have a choice." I feel like we haven't really spoken about Peacemaker yet, even though he's one of like the most hilarious parts of the movie.
Yes, and one of our favourite parts. The scene of
Yeah.
Sons is upon us. He is fantastic in this movie. I think it's the perfect role for him. Like you were saying, Matt, he looks exactly like he's just jumped out of the comic book because he's so huge.
Yeah.
And I just love the mindset of him, and also I think the whole look of Peacemaker. I think he's so right, John Cena, when he said in like the behind the scenes that he's the anti-Captain America, because like I think that's exactly what he is. He's kind of like Captain America, how he looks in the comics, but like all the opposite values, or the wrong values of Captain America.
Yeah.
And I just thought he was brilliant, and I was expecting him to have as many gadgets as he did, as well.
No, I really enjoyed that. I think he's kind of like, he's got Captain America's values, but then instead of like the anti-government independence of thought, he's more like, well, if the government says they need this thing done,
Then we do
it's
it.
obviously for America. Like he
Yeah.
doesn't see a separation between the people and the state.
Yeah.
I also just think like James Gunn is so good at getting the best out of wrestlers cast as superheroes. And I was
Yes.
almost going to say on the podcast, why don't we have more wrestlers as superheroes? Because it seems so perfect. Like they're already
true.
showmen. They've already got like these outlandish comic book bodies. But then I also think, would anyone other than James Gunn at this point get a Peacemaker and a Drax as good as they are? I think he knows exactly how to play them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay.
Because otherwise you end up with things like the Scorpion King 3, I think it is, or 4, where like there's like a ton of like wrestlers and UFC fighters in it, and they're very bad. So like I think
Yeah.
it all depends on the director and if they know how to direct them. Like James Cameron with Arnold, and that's not saying that Arnold's not a good actor, because obviously Arnold is, but he knows James Cameron got the most out of Arnold at that time because he knew what fits in the most. He's going to be a giant robot.
Yeah.
That's perfect. Do you know what I mean? And I think,
Yeah.
like you said, to have them play these superheroes is so perfect. And I love that the ones that are kind of parodies of superheroes and superhero comics are played by the ones that look like they've just jumped out the comics.
Yep.
I think that's perfect.
Yep.
Do you know what I mean? Like, I really like that.
James C and James G, both the best at taking that kind of wrestler Mr. Universe vibe and turning it into a great character.
Yes.
Yeah, no,
Jimmy C
I
and Jimmy G.
Jimmy G.
I really liked the bit where he was in his tighty whities.
Yes, you did, didn't you? Yeah. Terry isn't asthmatic, viewers at home, but I would have sworn she was, because she kept having breathing difficulties during that scene when we were sat there. Yeah.
He's
It's
just a very
exactly the kind of
large
movie style to make you feel
man.
inadequate.
Baby, look at you. You're almost there. You look exactly like him.
I look exactly just like the real thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, baby.
I think if I take my beard off, it's neck and neck.
Literally, that's what I was
I
thinking the
agree.
whole way through. That's why I was getting hot under the collar, because I was like, oh, he
Yes.
looks so much like Matt. Whew.
Yeah. And he fires the polka dots. Oh, you mean Peacemaker?
No, I would say that you look more like what's the one at the beginning? The weasel one?
Oh, yes. I can swim
Fitting
slightly
image.
better, though.
He was so
also-
gross.
That he was gross, and the way he runs like this, I love it.
Disturbing.
I also thought the tighty whities joke. That was the other joke I was going to say earlier. Always got a laugh when Elba's like, the tighty whities, and he's like, that's racist.
Yeah. So good. So funny.
Yeah, it was great fun. Did you guys enjoy Rick Flag? Because me personally, I thought he was so dry in the first movie. I couldn't understand why he didn't have his yellow t-shirt, holster, comic book outfit in the first movie, and they just made him look like a generic soldier. I hate it when they do that. And also, he was just so wet, wasn't he? Aside from his relationship with Enchantress, he had nothing to do.
When we went into the movie and you were like, and we were like doing the lineup, and I was like, I hope they die, I hope they die, I hope they don't die. I was like, Rick Flag is so boring. I hope he just dies, like, and we're done with it. But then I was really glad he didn't, and I took it all back.
I think you have like Harley Quinnian taste in men. Oh no, that says a lot about me. Because you instinctively were like, Rick Flag, he looks boring when he's like such a genuine person. And then as soon as Peacemaker came on the screen, she was like, oh yeah. And it's like, wow, out of the two of them, I can't think who would be the better boyfriend.
Yeah, no, I was, by the end of the movie, I was like mortified. I thought it was time to reevaluate my life, you know.
How far does he take the
Yeah.
peace stuff? Like, so like if he's got a girlfriend and he's arguing with her, like, does he, you know, is she ruining the peace then, you know? Like, do you know what I mean? Like, how far does he take it?
I would prefer to eat at Denny's, but since I want to keep the peace, we can go to Taco Bell. That's fine.
yeah.
Oh, baby, you're so considerate.
I imagine
Yeah.
accidentally cucking Peacemaker.
Accidentally cucking Peacemaker. Oh my god, cuckmaker. That's what he'd be. I actually think Rick Flag got like quite a bit of juicy material in the
Yes.
sense, like, you know, it was good to see from his perspective the whole reveal that America had been conducting the experiments, and then for him to have that one-on-one with Peacemaker. They're kind of like two sides of that kind of patriotic coin, aren't they? Also, I think the flair with which this one was shot and graded was kind of head and shoulders above some of his other like Marvel work. Like when it's reflected in the helmet, the fight scene, I thought that was great.
I think all the
There's
Marvel
just some
stuff.
really good like clever cuts.
I'd argue all the Marvel stuff because I think it really showed to me
Yeah.
that Kevin Feige puts more control over what he looks like than what I originally thought. And James Gunn's come out and said this, that Warner Brothers gave him way more freedom with things, and I think it shows. Like, you can really tell they've let him have his director flair a little bit. He's having a lot of fun shooting this movie. I just want to go touch on Ric Flair. Woo! No, Ric
One
Flag.
too many wrestlers this week.
Yeah, too many. I would love to see Ric Flair though in a Suicide Squad movie. So Rick Flag.
As himself.
Yes, yeah, of course. He's larger than
Captain
life.
Boomerang, Rick Flag, King Shark, Killer Croc, Ric Flair,
He
Undertaker.
Undertaker's perfect. He's already like. He already looks like one of the members of the Suicide Squad.
Fantastic.
Yeah, no. I really like Joel Kinnaman, and I feel like he's not really had his time to shine in anything. I think he could be a real star. He's kind of like that Idris thing I was saying earlier, where like I think he just needs that role to chew into. I think I really liked him as Rick Flag, but obviously he's like, you know, it's not his movie, or do you know what I mean? Like, but I think he can be a leading man. I liked what I saw of him in Altered Carbon, and I think he's got a really like. It kind of reminds me a bit of like the kind of 70s kind of action, like James Coburn, Clint Eastwood type in terms of his demeanor and the way he carries himself. And I'd like to see him have a few more like juicier roles than that, but I really liked him in this. He was obviously miles ahead of what he was in the other Suicide Squad movie.
That
And
just shows what writing and direction will do to a character.
that's it.
It's the same
100%.
performer.
Literally 100%. It's
When
easy to act
when I
off
saw the
good
first
material.
Suicide, when I saw the first Suicide Squad, I the only other thing I'd seen him in was RoboCop, and he's so
Oh,
wet
yeah.
in that.
Yeah.
But now looking back on it, it's one of those things. Like I remember when I was seeing the film, I was like, "Oh, this is such a lame casting." All the way back in 2014. Now what I've seen of him with stuff like Altered Carbon and this, I'm like, Joel Kinnaman is such a good RoboCop casting.
He's
That's
a perfect casting.
So
He actually is, yeah.
tell you, if they announced that movie now, I'd be like, okay, it still
Yeah,
sucks,
same.
but okay.
Yeah. It's true.
I don't.
Also,
think...
when he died, I genuinely felt something.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
What were you gonna say, Terry?
I was going to say I don't think that we can have a Suicide Squad podcast without talking about Miss Harley Quinn.
It's true.
No, I actually, I've been purposely holding off on her, because it's one of the things I liked least about the movie.
Really?
But Well, let me explain that start. So I touched on this as well in the latest Full Fat videos. I didn't want to like retread my steps too much, but for the context of this conversation, I guess it makes sense in that I liked everything she did with Luna, and I liked the characterization of her being like, yeah, I'm going to explore this like romantic sexual relationship with this guy. Like, you know, I'm my own person now, but also at the same time, if they turn out to be a dick, I'm going to do the healthy thing in the most Harley Quinn way possible and kill him. And I thought that showed like perhaps a retread from Birds of Prey, but all of this stuff's in its own continuity anyway. It was a really good step forward from her being this sort of like slave to the Joker, and it did it without us having to touch on the Joker. Do you know what I mean? It was like you get everything about her headspace from that moment. However, that's kind of the only character work I think she really gets, and it feels quite detached from the movie. I actually think that whole extended sequence really kind of wrecks the pacing of the jungle stuff. And not only that, but after that point, she gets a great action sequence where she escapes. I do really like that scene, but she's doing a lot of like plot action things rather than anything. Do you know what I mean? She doesn't really have the heart of the movie aside from that one Luna scene. I feel like that's the only time she gets to be a protagonist, and the rest of it is all like, oh, she ends up with the javelin that ends up killing Starro. Like that's all plot, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? That's not really like.
Yeah.
We don't dig into the psyche of Harley Quinn like I think someone like James Gunn could have.
I'm not sure there was time, and
Yeah, I was gonna say that.
But that's what I mean.
you know,
But- sorry, go on.
we had that in her own movie, and I'm just really grateful that she was shown as like strong, capable, and sexy in like a non-male gazy way. Do you know what I mean? If you look at the way she's portrayed in the first Suicide Squad movie compared to now, like such a difference. She's so much more capable. When she's like kills him with her legs, the door's opening itself. Sorry. When she's like murdering that guy with her legs, and then she like picks up the key and fucking unlocks herself with the toes. That is
What a lucky
like,
fucker.
I can do that to you if you want, babe.
It's not the same. I want Harley Quinn to do it.
Oh, sorry. Let me just give
like
Margot
you
Robbie
want,
a call.
like you want Peacemaker to do it.
Okay, I'll allow it. But yeah, no, and like it's with Ratcatcher as well. Like I don't think any of the female characters, the very few that we have, we're like, you know, we've got almost as many as Lord of the Rings here. But yeah, they weren't sexualized at all. They were just capable, doing their thing. Like it didn't come into it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I liked that.
No, it's a tough one for me because I agree with you on all of that, and in particular, you saying about it not being male gazy. I love that she picks up a pair of boots before she goes and kicks a load of arse. Like that is it for me. Like I'm so sick of not only having heels on female comic book characters, but trying to explain it as like a functional thing. Like in The Dark Knight Rises, when Catwoman's heel was like things she uses to stab people, it's like, oh come on, like it's not worth the trouble of having to like walk around in heels, is it? So I like all that kind of stuff.
You have seen me trying to get places on a night out in my heels, like. Yeah, I could run if I had to, but it's not. If I was choosing my supervillain outfit, I promise you I wouldn't choose heels. Like,
yeah, it's one of those things for me. Like I'm all for like exaggerated comic book universes, but obviously there's always certain things that rub you the wrong way. Like another one that rubs me the wrong way. I said this to Charlie in the cinema when we saw it. Is I hate that trope of all the henchmen are firing and like one character's like hanging off a ledge or something, and all the bullets are spraying everywhere, and they're like, like trying to get up slowly. It's like, I'm sorry. Not one of you managed to
soldiers.
just skim his shoulder. Yeah. They're all shooting at one spot. But you know, it's a movie, sure. But it's just like
Hollywood,
it's
baby.
one of those tropes that happens so often that I'm so sick of it. And the other one is heels.
yeah.
It's true.
But yeah, I sorry, just to round off that point, I did like what Harley Quinn does in the movie. It just feels a bit divorced in a way that I would rather she just gets her own movie from here on out. Like you don't need to put her in the Suicide Squad anymore, because the whole point of the Suicide Squad is they need to be killable, and she is so incredibly unkillable.
I suppose, but if you think of it from like a marketing perspective, a big chunk of your audience will come just for Harley Quinn. Do you know what I mean? Because it's like such a casual character.
But
It's a
but
character
that's kind of my
that-
point. That's kind of my point, is that like she is on the team because she's an A-lister, bro. She's an A-lister, bro. But do you know what I mean? Like, beyond that, I think it actually kind of detracts from the movie. Like, every single other character, and indeed, every moment from the movie that really stays with me is when either a character died or I genuinely believed they were going to die. And you never get that with Harley Quinn. And I just think, like, that's fine, because I love Harley Quinn. I want to see more adventures with her. But maybe don't put her in the movie where that's the premise.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean? Like, also, she's been in Birds of Prey. She's been in 2 Suicide Squad movies. It's time for her to get the title card. Do you know what I mean? The Harley Quinn movie. Just do it.
Yeah.
Everyone's going to sign up to it. Everyone's going to go see it.
It's true.
Do you know what I mean? I don't... I think she's got a cool role in the Suicide Squad, but I think what James Gunn has proven is that you don't need Killer Croc, you don't need Deadshot. What you need is Blackguard, Javelin, characters you've never fucking heard of, that you don't give a shit if they're not comic book accurate, you don't give a shit if they die in the first 5 minutes, and because of that, you're on the edge of your seat. What's going to happen? You don't know.
I do think that's true.
I also don't
enjoy
want
her
to...
being in it.
I did, but I feel like you could cut the whole Luna stuff out, and give the javelin to someone else, and it would barely affect the movie.
I loved the Luna stuff because it wasn't like part of the plan. Do you know what I mean? She just like chaotically. This just happened to her, and she then just like furthered their plan even further just by being her chaotic self. It's almost Jar Jar Binksy, if that makes sense. That she's just going through being chaotic, but making like actually helping, and I love that about it.
And I think that scene, as much as I kind of agree with the pacing and stuff, and I know that you could sort of argue that it retreads ground in Birds of Prey, but in my opinion, I think it did a better job than in Birds of Prey with dealing with that stuff. I like that because they took it from an angle that was less focused on the Joker, and it was something relatable to anyone who's been in an abusive relationship, like, oh, telling me the music I like is not good, or you know, slashing my tires, or do you know what I mean, like things that were, you know, anyone could kind of relate to if they've been in that kind of horrible relationship. And I really like that, and I like that her result was just I said to myself I'd kill him. I'll just shoot them, murder them, and it, you know, killing children's kind of a red flag. Like, I thought that was really fun. As much as I agree with you in terms of her being safe, it doesn't. I don't mind it too much. After the second watch, because I was kind of like, I did really enjoy all of her stuff, and also like I feel like everyone else could go at any minute. So it doesn't bother me too much that I get to have more Harley and just have fun with her. As much as when I first come out, I kind of felt, like, the kind of tension of who's going to die is kind of gone. But then watching it the second time, I was kind of like, as much as the film is about that, it's not also about that. And I had fun with her sort of just being Harley, which I think they've got right very few times. You know, Birds of Prey, they did. Suicide Squad, I couldn't really connect with her as much as Margot Robbie's. To me, Margot Robbie is like so perfect as Harley. It's like Hugh Jackman Wolverine or
but it's
Robert
a
Downey Jr. Iron
caricature
Man.
In that first movie, isn't it?
Exactly, as opposed to
it's like it's a good impression of Harley Quinn reading lines, but there's no character there.
100%. Yeah, I agree.
I do get what you're saying in the sense of like the movie isn't also it's also about these other things, but I think you could do all that great Harley Quinn stuff in something else with Harley Quinn starring Harley Quinn.
I see.
And I think the Suicide Squad is at its best when it's D-listers. Like, so just keep doing that. Like, do you know what I mean? Suicide Squad 3, I want them to announce 20 absolute fucking Z-list comic book characters that were in like in like one issue in the 60s. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's what I want, rather than Harley Quinn per se.
I'm sorry, I can't stop laughing at the little bits on the side of your helmet. They're like coming loose and starting to like...
wiggling. Yeah.
I
also loved how John Cena's helmet didn't quite align to his eyes sometimes.
Yeah, that was great.
Like, it was awkward. Because it's kind of that thing, isn't it? Again, of like he's like Captain America, but not quite. Like it's a nice visual representation of that.
Exactly.
And of course, we're going to get loads more of him in the Peacemaker show. I'm very excited about that.
I am very excited about that, and I
gonna be
actually
good.
read some news that James Gunn said just before the start of this podcast. Just giving a little summary of what he thinks it will be, what he says it will be. I can read out the little extract if you guys want. Don't know if that's something you'd want.
Please do.
Yeah. Okay. Well, keep talking for a sec while I get it up. Let's talk about Peacemaker for a bit.
Okay. Well, whilst Charlie takes his Viagra Plus, I'd say that I think James Gunn doing a Suicide Squad TV show focusing on one character is exactly the route I'd like him to take. Because personally, as much as I loved him doing this movie, I would like to see him do some fresh stuff after Guardians Volume 3, like original movies. And I think I'd rather they keep handing off Suicide Squad to one and done directors who get to put their stamp on it.
I agree.
Thank you.
I 100% agree. I 100% agree with you, Matthew Whittle.
Would you agree, Terry, or would you rather see Gunn back?
You know, I had a really great time. I trust Gunn. After some of the more recent DC movies we've had,
Not to name any.
My trust is very wavering for these directors, but you know, we'll see.
Jeremy Solner.
It depends who they get in.
Jeremy
That
Solner.
would be a fucking
that's what I want.
savage pick.
That's what I want.
That'd be a good pick.
I think he'll deal with violence very interestingly in it. But I have the article up now of the Peacemaker show. So this is the Hollywood Reporter interview that James Gunn did, and he said there's a lot of similarities to the Suicide Squad in that it has no holds barred, but there are also a lot of things that are very different in that it's quieter in some ways. It's very specifically about a different group of people, so it's a little bit more about society. One of the leads is Peacemaker, and one of the leads is Daniel Brooks. And she has a very different political view of the world than Peacemaker does. So it's just a little bit about what's going on in the world, but also being a TV show, you really do have more time to delve much deeper into these characters and much more deeply into the drama and the comedy of them. So it has a lot of similarities, but it's even more grounded, more natural and more real. But it's still within a big science fiction storyline that lasts for one season. The main storyline lasts for that season. So that doesn't mean there's only one season of Peacemaker. Gunn also indicated that the series ends up being connected to other DC properties, though which exactly remains to be seen.
That's so exciting.
Yeah,
Very
that
exciting.
sounds really good.
Sounds really
I
interesting.
don't think any of it's surprising. I expected them to sort of go into more of like the America and what it means to have certain political beliefs and how that's all kind of going to mesh together. I mean, it's a show about a character called Peacemaker.
Yeah.
And he wears a beacon of freedom on his head. Like, I think it'd be silly not to. I'm also very excited by the fact he said it's going to delve in because there's more time to. I'm also intrigued by the fact there's other main characters. It's going to be more of an ensemble. I wasn't expecting that.
Yeah, I was intrigued by that. And that he said that there could be, and that this storyline is its own thing, but doesn't mean there couldn't be more Peacemaker stories, which I think is really interesting. Do you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't
He
mean
said
there
on
couldn't be
Jimmy Kimmel that they're trying to get a season 2.
Yeah, that's really interesting, isn't it?
Yeah.
I'm curious by it. I most importantly, I did a little bit of background searching on who these characters are, particularly with Bloodsport and Peacemaker. I knew nothing about them going into it, and Peacemaker seems to have really interesting sort of backstory. Apparently, his dad in one of the storylines by DC. Apparently, his dad was a Nazi. And he killed like loads of people. And when Peacemaker was like 5, he like killed himself, like shot himself in front of Peacemaker. And apparently, like later in the comics, Peacemaker is like haunted by the ghost of his dad, and he thinks he's like trapped in his helmet. Which also apparently is not just a helmet; it actually does do things. Like it's connected. Like I think he gets like a ray gun, and it's all connected to like the helmet that he's wearing and stuff.
So like he can he can create things out of the helmet.
No, it's got some sort of electrical current. So I was a bit confused by it, but like it means that he has some sort of ray gun or something. I read, and it's all connected to that.
Oh, okay.
He has a jetpack as well. which I really want to see.
Yes, jetpacks.
More jetpacks.
That's what we want, boy.
If Matt Whittle had powers, he'd have stretchy powers with a jetpack.
It's true.
Yes, that would be great. Stretchy powers, jetpack, and a fishbowl helmet. Or a
No,
toilet seat
you
helmet.
you're cursed to keep that helmet on forevermore.
I can't take. You know what? It would actually be quite difficult to take it off. It's like welded to my head. It's just gonna be. I'm warning you now. It's just gonna be like sweat.
Oh, I bet.
Probably.
See, Matt.
Like a baked potato.
So we have Peacemaker, but Matt's piss taker, and that's his helmet. That's his outfit.
Yes, Mr. Peter Ian Staker, P.I. Staker, piss taker. Come on.
It's really scary because your eyes are really dark, so you like just can't see
Yeah, it's very
any
ominous.
eyes. Well, now you can.
Yeah, like imagine if I was like.
Well, you've already done that to me this week, Matt.
It would be unnerving. It'd be unnerving
would.
through these eyes.
Yeah.
Definitely. I think it's probably about time to wrap this rodeo up. Is there any more points or thoughts or nitpicks you had from the Susu squads that you'd like to voice, or may you forever hold your peace? I'm going to take it to Terry.
I want a pet starfish.
You want a pet starfish? I would not want to go anywhere near that room.
No.
I don't want any of those things on my face. That's disgusting. Which also brings me to a nitpick. I could have done with one of the squatters getting face hugged.
Yeah,
I
sorry.
think Peter Capaldi might have.
Ratcatcher was like, cover your faces, and then none of them covered their faces, and then they were all fine.
It also kind of annoyed me that, like, Polka Dot Man, he's batting them away. It's like, just fucking... Do you know what I
Yeah,
mean?
that's
Light
true.
that shit up, bro. It kind of annoyed me how easily they could stop themselves.
Yeah.
Whilst all the soldiers were just sort of like basically giving up.
It's true.
But yeah,
I
again,
do,
a nitpick.
Movie magic.
I do just want to send my love out to just the one military leader guy, who, do you know the old guy who replaces the good-looking fellow? I can't remember his name.
Yeah, I think is he Suarez?
Suarez, yeah, because he gave me the two biggest laughs that I had watching it. One of them was when Capaldi's character, the Thinker, he says something like, what does he say? He says something
Does it
that's
make
like,
your brain good?
he goes, yes, it makes my brain good. And then he's like, don't be sarcastic with me, like it's up. And then when Harley like is captured, and she's like, yeah, we got like 69 soldiers. And he's like, 69? How did you get 69 onto the beach? And then like the other soldier whispers in his ear, and he's like, oh, his reactions were so funny. Like I really thought you did a really good job, that actor, actually, of getting the comedic timing right.
That's the kind of joke that could have been really dead, but the way he sells it gets a
Yeah.
laugh out of me every time. Like, 69, like, you can't believe it. You can't believe they've got those troops in.
So good. So good.
I also, like, just to get back to some Harley love, I do need to reiterate that sequence where she uses her gymnastics and acrobatics and her gunplay, fantastic. And also just really, really sells you on the fact that this woman is so fucking deadly. Like, I think in the first movie, it's like, why is she here? She's got a baseball bat. Like, the soldiers have got more gear than she has, whereas in this, it's like, oh, yeah, she could take out a room of 20 dudes without breaking a sweat. Like, this is why she was the Joker's girlfriend and Batman's nemesis. Like,
Yeah, 100%. Rocket launching people and shit.
oh, yeah, I love that, yeah. I could have
had a
done more
blast
with her in that awesome outfit.
Yeah, I was sad.
Yeah.
But I did like the dress. I did like it with the boots.
Yeah, it did work. It did work. I think that'll be like one of her iconic looks from the cinematic
Definitely.
universe.
Yeah, we'll be seeing that at Comic-Con.
Is there anything you guys want to see from the next movie? Because for me personally, I would love to see the second Bloodsport. Because the second Bloodsport is like an absolute douchebag. He's like a white supremacist who takes the Bloodsport name as like a fuck you. And there's precedent in the comics for them fighting. So I would love it if Bloodsport versus Bloodsport 2. Like there's great conflict there, and also there's a great opportunity to delve into what it means for him to be a white supremacist in America today, and to really, again, as we were saying earlier, like proper arsehole villains. Give us the worst of the worst.
Conflicts
and
between
blast
the
them
Suicide
bits.
Squad.
Yeah. Like, imagine if Bloodsport's like, you're getting me to work with him. Are you for real? Are you for real right now?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
and as
ain't
you say,
working
Charlie,
with
like, they you want them to have fights with each other. Do you know what I mean? You
Yeah,
want them to
100%.
kill the other one off.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
I want to feel tense every moment. I want to feel that, like, at any moment someone could betray someone, or someone could die, or look, like anything could
Yeah.
happen. And I think James Gunn set us up for the next one to be totally just that.
Yeah.
And I find that really exciting.
You know, I think it would be sick if, let's say, like, Bloodsport 2, like, stole one of Bloodsport's outfits or whatever, and he's got, like, a white version of that Inspector Gadget shit, and they're just, like, using all of their, like, things on each other. Like, they've all got, like, different, like, weapons, and they're just,
That would
like,
be
cycling
sweet.
through them all. And then they just get to nothing, and that's just when the fight really kicks off.
Or
do you know what I
they
mean?
get their
That'd be
guns
sick.
out and they just like the nozzle gets like smaller and smaller and smaller because they're like trying to get the tiniest bullet.
Yeah, like...
Yeah. And they're just like taking turns in it getting smaller and smaller.
Yeah.
Well, I'm pretty sure I saw a
Let us know in the
comic
comments
panel.
if you liked our artistic renditions and all that stuff. I hope you got what was going on. It wasn't just like completely confusing.
What is this Cyberman doing on my screen?
I see a really cool comic panel where Bloodsport is like got like a shield, and like I think Superman's like laser eyeing the shield, and he's like fighting against it. And I was like, okay, I want to see that, because I when people say, oh, he took out Superman, he put Superman in the ICU. I think immediately I'm like, what are you talking about? But then through the progression of the movie, I was like, oh no, I could see it. He's pretty like
Yeah.
nifty with his gadgets. You know what I mean? I think it'd be a bit of a
Yeah.
nightmare to deal with.
Also, if he had more than one kryptonite bullet, like let's say like each of his guns has some kryptonite, that would be a fucking sick fight. Because Superman would be like getting shot, getting grazed. He'd have to like think of like a different way to fight him. And also, he's not
Yeah.
Batman. Do you know what I mean? Like, he's not going to pull those punches.
No, he's gonna go for the kill.
He's,
That's true.
yeah, every shot's going to be a kill shot. It's going to be a dead shot.
Yeah.
You know, I agree. I would love to see. I would love to see Cavill make a supporting appearance against
Yes.
Bloodshot. I would love to see Bloodsport 2, and I would also like to see Big Willie in a scene
Big
with
Willie
Bloodsport.
style. Yeah,
Yeah, Big Willie style. The Millennium needs to return.
it does.
I would just like some more Suicide. Yep, I fucked it. I fucked my Oh no.
It's okay. Start from the top, and we'll cut this bit out.
Yeah,
You're
yeah.
not going to, are you?
No.
I was gonna say I'd like a bit more Suicide, a little bit more Squad, and then I'll be happy. But then I said Skewer Squad, and
You dropped the ball.
I said the loud part quiet and the quiet part loud.
this has been the Full Fat Podcast.
Since you're Rick Flag, maybe you'd like to see us out.
This
As the leader.
Oh well, if you shut up, I will.
Yes, sir. Yeah, you're an American hero, sir. Anything for you, sir.
This has been the Full Fat Podcast. Earlier on we had King Shark, but now he's gone and we have Charlie Lilly. We have Peacemaker and myself, Rick Flag. Peacemaker's having a bit of a stroke right now, so that's us signing off. Check out our socials.
Ta-ta for
You
now.
didn't do a very good job of plugging the socials, but you know what? People know where to find us. I think that's fine for now.
Yep.
Check out our socials.
What are you laughing at?